After her father abandoned them, she did what she had to do to make money and provide for the family. But now, her father suddenly reappears, pleading for forgiveness. Will they accept him back? Let's find out. Kindly subscribe to this channel to get more of our latest stories. This movie begins in a country called the United States, in the city of New York. Two men make a phone call after spotting a young man named Anie, who had just gotten an apartment. As he stepped outside, he ran into a group of people he owed money to. He explained that he had just been released from prison that day, but they didn't care. They picked a fight with him. Anie ran for his life. After escaping, he spent the night on the street. The next morning, he continued with his day. Later on, Anie visited his aunt, whom he hadn't seen in years. She was overjoyed to see him, but broke the sad news that his mother had passed away. They went inside together. Meanwhile, a wealthy man named Mr. Philip visited a woman named Ngozi, known as NG. Unknown to them, Anie was secretly taking pictures of their meeting from a hidden spot. As Mr. Philip was leaving, he accidentally splashed water on Anie with his car, not realizing he was there. Elsewhere, a young lady named Clara visited her friend Anu, NG's daughter, and the two left together. At the basketball court, Ayochukwu and his friends were playing a game. His team won a bet, but when one of his friends jokingly mentioned his mother, Ayochukwu didn't take it lightly. He chased the friend and beat him up badly. The police arrested him, and he remained stubborn even in custody. That same day, Anie visited a boxing gym full of memories. As he soaked in the atmosphere, he ran into his old coach. They exchanged greetings and left together to catch up. Meanwhile, Mr. Philip bailed Ayochukwu out of jail and called his mother to inform her he was bringing her son home. That night, Anie had a deep conversation with his coach. He shared memories about his wife and daughter, whom he hadn't seen in over 25 years, but mentioned he never got to meet his son. They continued to talk as time passed. On the other side, Mr. Philip brought Ayochukwu home. Ayo went straight to his room. NG thanked Mr. Philip for his help, and their moment was interrupted. After Philip left, Ayochukwu also tried to leave, but his mother scolded him. She urged him to be more like his sister, but Ayochukwu rudely talked back. In response, she slapped him and told him to be quiet. Then, he stormed off. Anie planned to reunite with his family, which would be difficult, but his coach, Samson, was willing to help in every way he could as time went on. Anu arrived home very early the next morning and found her brother sitting on the stairs. She already suspected he had gotten into another fight. She tried to make him understand that no one in the house was against him, only that their mother had done her best to raise them alone and give them everything she could. Yet, he kept getting into more trouble. She encouraged him to find something he truly loved, like wrestling, and mentioned that Mr. Philip could help him get started. She spoke meaningful words to him, and they both went inside together. The next morning, Anie went to cash out the shares he had received years ago from the National Heavyweight Championship. The attendant called his superior for instructions, and Anie was asked to wait patiently while the issue was being resolved. That same day, Ayochukwu and his friends were having fun when he noticed a pretty young girl named Zona and was immediately attracted to her. Later, Ayochukwu and his friend came across Anie and a man named Ogaga playing draughts, checkers. Ayochukwu pointed out a move that helped Anie beat Ogaga. Shortly after, one of his friends delivered a message, and they all left together. Ogaga then told Anie how Ayochukwu had been causing trouble around the neighborhood. Anie, feeling pity for his mother, was already growing fond of the boy. When he heard Ayochukwu's name mentioned again, Anie stood up and ran after him. Ayochukwu had gotten into a fight with a guy who was trying to exploit a young girl for money. Anie stepped in to break up the fight. To challenge Ayochukwu's stubborn attitude, Anie placed a bet of 50,000 naira on him. If Ayochukwu could win a fight the next morning at 9 a.m. at Samson's gym, he would take the prize. Ayochukwu agreed, and his friends bragged confidently about his chances of winning. The next day at the gym, the match between Ayochukwu and Anie began, with his friends cheering him on. Meanwhile, Anu came home that day with a bruise on her face. Her mother asked what had happened, but Anu said nothing and went straight to her room. Later, Femi arrived with his injured brother, looking for Ayochukwu. Since he wasn't around, they began to make threats and boast about the things they would do to him. Before leaving, they took some of NG's provisions. However, at the gym, Anie beat Ayochukwu so badly that he went home without saying a word. That night, Ayochukwu watched a video of the match. Then he overheard his mother pleading with Anu to keep her current job, but Anu insisted on quitting because she didn't like it. She expressed how tired and unhappy she was and left. While NG stepped outside to attend to a customer, Ayochukwu quietly snuck into her room and took a bag back to his. The next morning, Ayochukwu went to the gym with the 50,000 naira to give to Anie, but Anie told him to keep the money for himself. Ayochukwu then pleaded with Anie to teach him how to box. Anie brought out of boxing gloves that had belonged to Ayochukwu's father. Anie started questioning him, and Ayochukwu revealed that he had taken the gloves from his mother, who hated his father. He said he didn't care about the man and even called him terrible names. He chose not to talk about him at all. Anie, secretly hurt by these words, quietly excused himself and went to the restroom, where he broke down in tears. Guys, what do you think about this? How would you relate to a son who never knew you and now calls you all sorts of names? You've been absent from his life for over 25 years. How would you handle that moment, knowing he doesn't realize you're his father? Kindly share your thoughts on the best way to handle such a situation. One morning, Ayochukwu was all set to go to the gym. His mother was surprised by his new way of life. When she heard he was going to Samson's gym, she became deeply concerned and objected. But Anu supported her brother. Since he started training, he had changed significantly. No more fights, no more bad company. He had begun studying and was preparing for JAMB. Their mother was still worried, especially because the same man who had misled his father in the past was now close to Ayochukwu. Anie, however, comforted her, and they enjoyed a peaceful moment together. At the gym, Coach Samson was initially making fun of Ayochukwu, but when he discovered who Ayochukwu really was, Anie explained that it wasn't part of any plan. It was just a stepping stone toward reconnecting with his family. With that, Coach Samson decided to personally train Ayochukwu. Ayochukwu began training full-time, and over the days and weeks that followed, his progress was phenomenal. One day, while jogging, Ayochukwu joined Zona. She was surprised by his new routine. They had a short conversation, and she jokingly told him to catch her if he wanted her number. Later that night, while Philip and NG were enjoying themselves at a classy restaurant, Philip insisted she try her dessert. When she opened it, she found an engagement ring. Philip proposed to her, and she said yes, as they savored the moment together. The next day, Anie went to the bank. The bank attendant congratulated him, confirming that his documents were authentic and the shares allocated to him were indeed valid, worth millions of naira. Anie was completely shocked. A few days later, Clara, Anu, and NG, Anu's mother, visited the gym to see how Ayochukwu was doing. To NG's surprise, she saw her husband, the man who had been gone for 25 years, along with Samson. Shocked and overwhelmed, she left abruptly, and Anie ran after her. Ayochukwu noticed the awkward tension and stepped outside, only to witness his mother in tears, revealing that Anie was actually his father. Ayochukwu was stunned. After Anu and NG left, Ayochukwu lashed out and punched Anie, furious that he had known the truth all along, but kept it a secret. Then, he too walked away. Back in the gym, Samson comforted Anie, who looked heartbroken. He reassured Anie that it was natural for them to react the way they did and encouraged him not to blame himself, helping him calm down as the moment passed. At home, Ayochukwu's mother warned him to stay away from his father, but he wanted answers. Anu was also firmly against him reconnecting with Anie, saying he had abandoned them for another woman. Their mother then explained the real story. Anie was supposed to return just 9 months after Ayochukwu was born. He used to call often, until one day he phoned to say he wasn't coming back. And from that day, she never heard from him again. Anu, still holding deep pain, shared how much she suffered because of their father, even sacrificing just to provide for Ayochukwu. In her frustration, she called Ayochukwu a loser. Angry but silent, he simply walked away. Later, Anu, still hurt, confronted her brother in the neighborhood. But Ayochukwu realized her pain came from jealousy, that their father seemed to be choosing him over her. After expressing her anguish and calling him names, she slapped him and stormed off. Yet, he remained distant from their mother, who was also suffering, and walked away again. That night, NG went to Philip. He tried to understand why Anie had come back, but NG didn't allow the conversation to go far. Philip comforted her instead, rekindling his feelings for her with tender words, and they shared a quiet, emotional moment together. Meanwhile, Clara, who had never seen Anu so angry, insisted that she at least hear her father out. But Anu refused, saying he wasn't there when she needed him the most. Unbeknownst to them, NG was in the background, overhearing everything, as the tragic moment unfolded. Guys, what do you think? Are Anu and her mother handling things the right way? What would your advice be in a situation like this? The next day, Anie went to visit his parents. He brought a bottle of dry gin and a wrapper as traditional offerings, then lay flat on the ground, begging for forgiveness. His father, overwhelmed with emotion, almost hit him, but his mother stepped in to calm him down. Meanwhile, Ayochukwu was trying to bond with Zona, who was having a conversation with him. When she asked about his father, having heard some rumors, he had nothing much to say. Just then, Femi and his gang spotted Ayochukwu spending time with Zona. Some of Femi's boys wanted to attack him, but Femi stopped them, saying, "Not now, another time." So they left. One morning, Anie came to see NG. He pleaded with her and apologized for all the pain he had caused. However, NG refused to accept his apology, reminding him that he had abandoned her for years, broken the promises he made, and left her and the children to suffer. Now that they had moved on with their lives, she told him she was getting married to Philip. When Anie insisted on explaining himself, NG ran out. At that moment, Anu arrived. She consoled her mother and spoke rudely to Anie. Ayochukwu also showed up, and Anie finally opened up about how he had been locked up in prison for 24 years. They all moved inside as Anie began to narrate his story. He explained that, while in New York, he had only been licensed to box, but wasn't permitted to move freely. To get his green card, he entered into a fake marriage with a woman, but she later falsely accused him of rape and other charges. Even though he was innocent, he was sentenced to 40 years in prison, with the possibility of release after 25 years. That was why he had told NG, back then, to move on and forget about him. Anie apologized to each family member individually, then left, heartbroken. Ayochukwu ran after him, but while looking for his father, he was ambushed by Femi and his gang. Femi pointed a gun at him, forcing Ayochukwu to flee for his life. Fortunately, he ran into Anie, who stepped in to defend him. During the confrontation, someone tried to outsmart Femi, but Femi pulled the trigger. Guys, do you think NG should forgive Anie after hearing the truth about his absence? And do you think she should still continue her engagement with Philip? Kindly share your thoughts in the comments as we get closer to finding out what really happened. Later, Ayochukwu woke up in the hospital surrounded by his family, and Zona was there too. He had been shot in the shoulder. He introduced Zona to his father, who complimented his choice of friends. While his sister had gone to work, they all enjoyed the moment together. Meanwhile, Anie stepped out for some fresh air. Philip, trying to reach NG after hearing what had happened to her son, came looking for her. Anie discreetly called NG, and when she arrived, she took Philip aside to explain everything about her husband's situation over the past years. But NG explained how important her family was to her and reminded Philip how he had once treated her like a queen. Despite that, she returned the engagement ring and asked him to give her time to sort things out. Then she walked away. Back home, Ayochukwu told his mother that his father had gone out to handle something important as they spent some quiet time together. Anie went to a club where he saw Clara. When he spotted his daughter, who was half naked and dancing as a stripper, he felt ashamed. When she noticed him, she quickly ran to change. Later, Anie apologized to her behind the club and expressed regret for many things. However, his daughter was happy to have him around again. She pleaded with him not to tell anyone about what she was doing and promised not to do it again. They reconciled and went home together. Years later, Anie took his wife to New York City, to the spot he used to visit to relax. He decided to give Ayochukwu 10% of 200,000 shares allocated to him, with 10% for Anu and 30% for his wife. He planned to open a gym to train his son and much more as they enjoyed the moment together. This story teaches us the power of patience, forgiveness, and communication. No matter how bad the mistake or disappointment may seem, try to listen to the other side of the story. Then choose whether to forgive and forget or not. Do what it takes to keep your family and be a responsible parent. So guys, if you enjoyed this story, kindly subscribe to this channel to get more of our latest stories.